The things that stand out to me so far is we still have Sett and Graves up, so you don't necessarily need to look for jungle first pick. And JDG are clearly trying to get TS to first pick that Renekton by banning out the Quinn.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Top Esports, they'd be quite happy to go for a Renekton first pick. We've seen it plenty of times. Dagda was talking about the Renekton on the desk. But Top Esports, they're still perusing their options here. A lot of first pickable champs available. Things like the Ashe as well.
The thing that stands out to me is the Sett, the Nidalee. We have a lot of priority junglers open, but Top Esports don't take the bait. They want to take away that Nidalee and make sure it doesn't go into the hands of Kanavi.
And I can understand why, because Kanavi is a monster if he can get his hands on that Nidalee, but certainly not his only pick. Zoom going to go for the Renekton now, and immediately that Ashe is locked in for Loken, locking in some hard engage.
JDG already have a ton of early options when it comes to pick potential, when it comes to setting up a lot of these early fights. I wonder where TS will go for top lane, locking in this set quite early, because typically with Nidalee, right, you want those strong laners that have lockdown that can help Nidalee facilitate these invades and get her ahead.
It's going to be a question of if they can get Karsa ahead, because when we were talking about the two junglers on the desk, it was about Karsa trying to deny Kanavi. Nidalee's certainly a champion that can do that, but when we look towards the bottom lane, we've seen a lot of these utility AD carries of late. JackeyLove going to fall right into that category.
Ooh, and we get a Lillia coming out for JD Gaming. Lillia's been very popular over in the LEC, but ever since Tien's performance on FPX, we've kind of strayed away from the pick.
Yeah, we saw it a couple of times from Vici as well, and it really didn't look so hot. So I guess it's time to find out what Kanavi can do, because if there's any jungler that can play a carry, it is Kanavi.
It's interesting, too, because I think these champions interact in somewhat similar ways to where Lillia's about her fast clear speed, being able to get into the enemy jungle with the help of having pressure in her lanes. If you have good gank setup coming in from something like Renekton, you actually do have a ton of damage once you start getting those items under your belt.
So we're into the bans here as we get into the second phase of the draft. Nautilus being taken away from Yuyanjia. There's going to be a Lucian ban coming out from Top Esports, perhaps focused on towards Yagao in the mid lane, though.
Exactly. When you do see an AP jungler like the Lillia, you are more afraid of those AD soul laners coming out. So whether it's something like a Lucian, I've seen Yagao practicing things like Jace. You always need to be fearful of that. I'm more curious to see where JD Gaming go with their next pick. I would actually assume it's going to be mid lane, because JDG are a team that really likes to get counter pick on support to unlock LvMao to have that roaming style that we talked about.
When we look towards the bottom side of the map here, JDG doing a lot of work to make sure Yuyanjia cannot be a heavy engage tool for the side of Top Esports.
We need to remember, though, that Yuyanjia's best champion by far is his Thresh. That was his go-to back in spring, where that was his rookie split. But I wonder if JDG are just going to pull out something like the Bard here. You already have the Nautilus ban, you have the Leona ban, a lot of these heavy engage options, and it's LvMao's best champion by far.
Yeah, LvMao, probably the best Bard in the world, to be quite honest, when you look at how he plays. There's a Pantheon lock-in, though.
Both supports have been spamming this pick in solo queue. Actually,
I'm just saying, we've got a Lillia in the jungle. That could be a mid lane Pantheon.
Exactly. We've seen both mid laners as well testing the waters with this one. So they have a bit of a flex pick going on right now. And again, when we talk about the early dragons, when we talk about these early skirmishes, Pantheon is the perfect pick for that.
We're going to see Tahm Kench locked in by Yuyanjia. Very defensive support that we often see him lean towards. And now the final pick towards that top lane, it's going to be the Kennen for the team fights.
Yeah, so we are getting a bit of a throwback to the Sett Nidalee, which we saw a ton of early in Split, because Sett obviously has a ton of good wave clear in the mid lane. You set up for these invades with Nidalee. You have CC coming out from your E to set up the spears. And now 369 going on a champion that will also be able to get a bit of pressure on its own.
So it's going to be interesting seeing a tank in the mid lane from Knight here instead of a carry on the other side of the board. We've got a Qiyana for Yagao.
This is Yagao's signature pick. He's actually brought it out 2 times during the LPL split already. He feels a ton of comfort on it. It's his second most played in solo queue. And JDG's comp is just so deadly. There's so much damage coming out. If Karsa gets caught in the wrong side of the enemy jungle, he's just dead. He's just bursted out.
And this is not the standard front-to-back teamfight composition that you typically expect out of JDG either. They're bringing out a different style to normal in game number 1.
Exactly. This is not, stock standard JDG. The thing I like is you have a lot of kill pressure in both of your side lanes. So Zoom has set up with the W. Of course, you have a point-and-click stun coming out from the Pantheon as well to help get Kanavi rolling.
Well, we have our compositions locked on in, and I cannot wait to see what JDG have up their sleeves. This is a different draft to what we're used to seeing. We've got a Pantheon coming through. We've got a Lillia coming through as well. We're getting ready to kick off our 2020 Summer Finals. Top Esports, they're coming in as the first seed, but JDG are coming in to defend their championship.
JDG showing already they have a very wide depth of strategy and that they are prepared for this match.
We'll see who's going to be able to take the edge here in game number 1. I'm excited to see if Top Esports can get that monkey off their back. They're the MSC champions, and they are looking to finally take a title in the LPL. We're about ready to jump into game number 1 of this series, Lyric. One last look at the compositions as my eyes are on the jungle. Karsa against Kanavi. We've got Nidalee against Lillia. And JDG bringing out all the stops already in game number 1 of our finals. We'll have to see as we head into game number 1 who is going to be able to take the first game of our finals.
JDG 加油 JDG 加油 滔博加油 滔博加油
We may not have crowds in the actual arena, but we can pretend that we do, damn it. We're into our finals here in the LPL 2020 Summer Split, and it's a rematch from Spring. Top Esports on our blue side against JDG, who are already looking for some level 1 shenanigans.
Right, they have a pretty strong level 1 coming out from the point-and-click CC with that Pantheon. And Yagao, though Qiyana not the strongest champion, they do have a ton of bursts, but TS had the ward. They caught this out, and they're going to be able to force them off of it.
JDG still sticking around here as Kanavi moves over to the Raptors. Top Esports aren't going to let this happen. Kanavi the target. This is going to be able to flash over the wall, keep himself safe. Knight ignited, but now it's Yuyanjia on the front line trying to push everyone away. Karsa misses the spear. Yuyanjia forced the flash. JackeyLove gets a grenade across the team. How is there this much action at level 1? But it's level 2 for Kanavi as he gets the chicken. JackeyLove in trouble, flashes over the wall. LvMao debating the idea of going further. Now onto the red buff.
Exactly. We saw a bunch of summoner spells traded, but overall worth for JDG. They get the camp, they get the level 2, but Karsa
ain't finished just yet. Spear goes in, he gets the smite as well. LvMao now the one in trouble, dodges the slow though, and they turn around onto Karsa, trying to find a kill for themselves. Karsa backs away, in they go. That's 1 kill for Knight. Make it a second one as someone else falls as well. Knight now in trouble as it's pure chaos, but Yagao falls. Top Esports barely doing it, but Loken comes out of nowhere. 1v1 with the AD carries, but Jhin has to reload. Loken gets it.
And that was so unfortunate for JackeyLove. Didn't have vision in that brush, had to reload, and Loken picks that one up for himself. 3 kills on the Ashe, 2 kills on the Nidalee. Now, to me, it's about how can Karsa use this pressure, because he is the moving piece on the map. Loken will be stuck in that bot lane, but guess what? LvMao still has his flash, so there will be a bit of kill pressure pretty much everywhere on the map right now.
Yeah, this has already kicked off to be an insane final. What a way to start off, Lyric. And you can see the hat trick already for Loken, and in that bottom lane with a Pantheon in support. That is going to be a terrifying prospect for JackeyLove and Yuyanjia.
We do see that Kanavi is going the Dark Harvest route. Typically, we do see Phase Rush on the Lillia, as you have such an easy way of proccing it, and especially the way you want to play fights is kind of weaving around on the outskirts so you don't get chunked out. This will give you much more damage later on, and it's very easy for Lillia to proc that Dark Harvest with all of her AoE.
So with our Western fans then, we could see the poll at the bottom of the screen. People supporting Top Esports, but JDG, they've actually started things off a little bit stronger in our level 1 brawl that we saw to start things off here. And I wasn't sure if there was going to be a bit of an all-in that bottom side. Lyric, while we have the opportunity, I want to talk a little bit about these team compositions. Big trade in the mid lane. Knight is going to be perfectly safe on this set, though. How do these two compositions function? How do we get these teams ahead?
Especially when we look at JDG, it was obvious before the skirmish happened, but even more so now with the 3 kills on Loken. It's all about playing around your mid and bot lane. You have a ton of kill pressure coming out from LvMao and Loken as well, so trying to set up some of those flash stuns on LvMao. Kanavi comes in, picks up the kill, and then once we hit that level 6 mark, you have a lot of global pressure to try to transfer that to the mid lane with the Pantheon ultimate and the Enchanted Crystal Arrow as well.
And it's going to be so much about how proactive LvMao can be on that Pantheon. As you mentioned, the global pressure. We know LvMao for Bard. That's a roaming champion. Pantheon definitely fits that category. But now Kanavi looking towards this bottom side to try and make a play. Bear in mind, Pantheon is pretty damn good at diving towers. Kanavi's looking for some crooks to start this one off. takes those away. Karsa forced out of his jungle, and now Yuyanjia could be in trouble. Summoners on cooldown for the top esports bot lane as they are being barraged underneath their tower here.
Yep, LvMao able to follow up, so Karsa feels threatened, as well as Kanavi having the red buff, which Karsa does not, so I'm surprised JDG are going to keep it going, but hey, they're building up the wave right now. Yagao's on his way.
Everyone's moving down. We could have a brawl on our hands here, Lyric.
Both top laners have TP too, so this can be a 5v5.
Yeah, we're going to see 369 currently recalling, but it looks like Kanavi has decided it's time to back away. 369 will commit his teleport to the top lane.
And going a step back, we talked about compositions, and when I look at top esports, it is a bit strange, I'd say, to where you definitely want to have Karsa playing around the top half of the map, because that's where 369 should be able to find some pressure early on, having the ranged into a melee matchup. But you're double AP, so it's going to be very easy for Zoom to pick up those Merc Treads, which you actually just did, so you're not going to be able to set up any easy ganks. I feel like it's a lot more about counter jungling and working with Knight, potentially finding kills onto Yagao, and really getting this advantage going.
And let's be honest, when we talk about these two junglers, one of the things we praise is how smart they are. When it comes to Kanavi, he's very much a carry for the side of JDG, but generally the story for Karsa is trying to deny the opponent jungle, trying to choke them out of the game.
And my problem with that in this comp is that it doesn't really feel like you're setting anyone up. It feels like you are the big damage dealer. You have Sett in the mid lane, you have a Jhin in the bottom side, so Karsa really going to be that big damage threat in the late game. And for JDG, I just like how many moving parts this composition has. We said it can move from bot to mid. It can move from mid to bot. Zoom is going to get unlocked, especially once he hits that level 6 point, which he already has, having that massively impactful ultimate on the Dominus.
Karsa's hanging around the bottom lane here, but won't find an opportunity to make his way into a play. Bear in mind, all 4 summoners available on both sides of the bottom lane.
Another massive thing is JDG's bottom lane already has 2 plates. 2 plates, 3 kills on Loken. He's going to be a massive threat in these early Dragon and Rift Herald fights.
It definitely helps when you manage to find yourself 3 kills before the lane begins, when you walk into lane at the start with a couple of extra long swords as well as boots. So certainly a nice way to start the game for Loken, and they are using and abusing that advantage. Now Knight goes in the mid lane, showstopper, but Yagao jumps away with the Terror shape now. Gonna ult Knight under tower, but you know, he's on Sett. He's going to be all right.
Yeah, both ultimates not really doing much damage, though they do now have mid priority.
Here we go, time for a 1v1. Kanavi in trouble, though, because Karsa has some serious damage to work with, but it's not going to follow up. Yagao, the first one to roam.
It's also interesting to see that Knight did take this Sett in the mid lane. Sure, it still works very well with the Nidalee, like we talked about, the mixed damage is set up there, but his damage in the late game did get nerfed on his W and E.
Now he's got to be careful here, but maybe it's Knight that has to be careful. He's got a lot of health regen being on the Sett, but Kanavi could always move over, and Knight is going to respect that.
Take a look at the minimap, Munchables, because at this point, JDG have pressure in all 3 lanes. Yagao pushing in mid.
But also wants to punish exactly that as LvMao jumps in, trying to get onto JackeyLove. Passes there. LvMao forced to flash, and he's probably going to go down. Spear goes in. Yuyanjia grabs the kill.
TS have the patience. They notice that JDG have the pushing bot lane. Karsa comes around when Kanavi was going back to clear his jungle, and they pick up a very nice, easy kill.
Nicely done here by Top Esports, punishing, as you rightly say, the 3 pushing lanes across the board from JDG.
This is typically the reason why when you see teams draft Pantheon, they play heavily around the Pantheon, because Pantheon only goes forward, right? Once you commit that W in, you are in, so we want to see JDG, again, hovering towards bot, giving them this vision, which they've been doing quite well. Karsa did play around a small window where he was able to do otherwise, but moving forward, we see LvMao already back out on the map, looking to put some pressure on the top side.
LvMao moving towards the top side of the map. Obviously, we are beyond 8 minutes at this point, so Herald is a point of contention.
And Zoom looks like he's stacking a wave.
Karsa's moved up here. They're over the opposite sides of the wall. LvMao has just realized that there's a Nidalee in the brush, but the blast cone will keep him safe. Bear in mind that support does not have flash.
Luckily, LvMao is able to get away. We saw Kanavi wasn't here because he was helping Loken get the reset in bot side. A bit of a cheeky play, but Karsa, after ganking bot, of course, is going to reset, go towards that top side. You already pointed out that the Herald is up. And JDG's full bot lane is making their way topside, while JackeyLove is still bot lane.
Exactly. You can see Loken moving over towards the play. And importantly, Loken bought himself tier 2 boots and a BF sword. He's going for that Essence Reaver version of Ashe. Zoom's in trouble, though, as Karsa tries to make a play, but dashed away from, and now Kanavi looking to turn this one around. Lilting Lullaby puts him to sleep. JDG jump on in, and Karsa is no more.
This is the burst that we talk about, point and click stun into an assassin mid laner, a super bursty top and jungle. Even Loken still has the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, so right now TS are just going to have to give up this objective, but at least they're going to get a bit of plate gold onto JackeyLove in the bottom side, and Loken as well going to miss out on a bit of EXP.
Yeah, we'll move over towards the bottom side now as the Herald is going to be secured here by Kanavi. He'll be able to smite that away with the eye. And the question, as always, is going to be what can be done with this Herald to answer for the plates on the bottom side?
I totally expect JDG to look and use this Herald bot. They already have 2 plates down on bottom lane, so they're going to be able to break open this turret very easily.
LvMao could be in trouble here. Karsa with a spear over the wall. The showstopper says, LvMao, you're going nowhere. Knight grabs himself one.
LvMao's aggressive plays are being the death of him, and TS doing a nice job of transitioning that into both a scuttle and dragon advantage.
Well, Loken and LvMao right now playing opposites. How did that pull him in? Yagao gets caught by the face breaker. I was just trying to clear the wave, I think.
Yep, he's going to be able to back off safely. Looks like he's going to walk around, and TSR threatening this blue invade, but all of JDG will be able to make it down in time.
The blue buff should reset here. Spear goes in, but the buff's going to be reset now as Kanavi looks for potentially a play. Slow down onto Yuyanjia, Crystalline Arrow. In goes LvMao, and he wants a bit of KDA for himself. Kanavi gets the kill. And now on towards the Dragon. But Dragon already got taken by top Esports,
yes.
So maybe not.
Yes, it did. TS being a bit greedy, trying to threaten that blue invade, and now Knight benefiting a bit, getting some plate gold in the mid lane. The thing that catches my attention still as I stop, because
trying to get an all in here. Dominus is available. Slicing Maelstrom used. That's all Zoom wanted. Didn't have his ult up right at the time, but now the Herald down in this bottom side. JDG get the first tower of the game.
This is just where we thought that JDG would place it, now opening up this lane. Probably going to transition into a 1-3-1 of having Loken and LvMao hover in mid, and LvMao having all that global pressure from his ultimate, being able to look towards either side lane. But as the game progresses, the thing I'm still scared of for TS is that 2 of your 3 big damage dealers are AP damage. So for JDG, they're going to be able to itemize so efficiently to where JackeyLove is pretty much going to be your only significant carry on the side of TS.
So I want to approach the fact that when you're mentioning these compositions and where the damage is coming from on the side of top Esports, we've got Knight on a very supportive pick in this set, but no time to talk about that because JackeyLove's in a whole heap of trouble. The Slumber Slam comes in and JackeyLove falls. Kanavi, oh no, is the dot enough? Guardian gets the shield up. JackeyLove dodges away from the Talon. And now Kanavi trying to chase this one in. Flashes for the kill onto the AD carry, but could be chased down himself. In comes Loken off from the side. Stun comes out onto Knight. The rest of JDG is here, and Karsa just has to flash to try and get away. The face breaker's not enough. Kanavi survives, and JDG get away with it.
Great punish by JDG to take down JackeyLove. Yuyanjia comes, tries to save him. He almost gets away. Kanavi flashes in, but that's 2 kills for JDG.
Zoom getting a good trade in the top side here. Holds off on using the ultimate. 369's ult is also almost available.
And the next thing we're looking at is definitely going to be the next Rift Herald that will spawn. And we see JDG still have pressure in the top lane. Now we've transitioned bottom lanes into mid to where, of course, you have the Ashe. You're going to spam those volleys and be able to consistently keep up pressure. But moving back, we see here JackeyLove walking up to the wave when it's in the middle of the lane. You have no vision down. Kanavi able to get in. Yagao following up with the TP. It almost looks a bit cheeky. JackeyLove almost gets away. Of course, Yuyanjia going to go down here with a nice supreme display of talent from Yagao. Kanavi flashes in to secure this kill. It looks a bit dicey for Kanavi, but we see Loken coming around the corner. Everything is A-okay.
Gets away with it in the end, but got a little bit close, but he was all right. Still had the smite onto the chickens to get some health back as well once Karsa tried to make a play. Yagao now in this bottom side of the jungle, and JDG can begin on their usual game plan of pure control of the map.
And they're doing a nice job. Yagao taking these Krug. Right now, a bit of a lull point. We don't have any neutral objectives up that either team really has the ability to contest. I think it's a lot more impactful for Loken and LvMao to save these ultimates for Dragon that's going to come up in a minute and a half, for another Rift Herald that should also be coming up shortly.
And I love that we're seeing such a dramatically different version of JDG to what we're used to as we come into the final. The draft, we usually expect front-to-back team fighting style compositions. That's not what we're seeing here. And even in just things like the itemization, Loken going for early damage instead of the late game build on the Ashe.
Exactly, and it's nice to see as well because you don't have... Like, of course you have Sett. I don't think Tahm Kench will be too much of a factor if you had gone that Blade of the Ruined King route and trying to take down those beefy front lines, because if you're able to take down Karsa, if you're able to take down 369, you should just be able to follow up and win out on all these fights. Another nice thing about JDG's comp is you have Yagao building the first lethality item to help clear away vision. You have the Hawkshot coming in from the Ashe, so you just have such a great ability of controlling and denying vision on the side of JDG.
I firmly stand by that Umbral Glaive is the most broken lethality item. It's so damn cheap, it gives you so much damage, but being able to one-shot wards for the rest of the game, even when the passive is on cooldown, if someone wards over the wall, you can just take it out.
Definitely agree with you on that one. We see TS heading up towards the top side, so I wonder if both teams will just end up trading objectives as all of JDG's vision is on the bottom half of the map, but I still favor JDG in fights at this point in time. You have Black Cleaver on your Renekton, you have the lethality already coming out on the Qiyana. Once again, if Pantheon, if the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, anyone, if you hit any point and click CC, that member of TS is just gone.
Karsa's moved into the top half of the jungle here. As you rightly said, Herald and Dragon both spawning as Dragon is now on the map. The Zoom, he's going to completely respect the fact that no one on his team is nearby. Moves away from the top lane, and this will give 369 some opportunity to get some damage onto the tower.
At the same time, Kanavi was able to take this Dragon. Herald just spawned, so they don't necessarily have to give this one up. And even with Yagao having pushed in the bot lane, he's going to be able to push in this wave, rotate over, and JDG should be able to match control of top side.
Karsa started this Herald off. You can see Yagao heading back to base, though. People are not in a position to contest this one from the side of JDG, so you'd expect this one just to go over, even though LvMao is toying with the idea of something. I believe he has been spotted. There's a trap in that bush. I think Top Esports should be able to secure this one.
JDG went for the resets. I feel like their comp was at a stronger point at this time in the game, but instead wanting to play it safe, wanting to just take that Dragon, get those resets by the key items, as we already see the Liandry's coming out for Kanavi.
And that's the point, is we're getting massive power spikes across the board here for JDG, with Lillia now on 2 items. If you include the jungle item there, like, we're hitting a point where Kanavi is going to be the easily biggest damage dealer on the side of JDG.
And the Liandry's just go so well with your kit, being able to hit those Eves and get the increased impaired damage as well. He could also go towards an early Rylai's and just, you know, amplify that even more.
Lillia, oh, I guess Lillia might be a little bit nervous about doing the damage. Kanavi will not be, and we already saw him using the combos beautifully, putting JackeyLove to sleep, then going for the watch out, eat for the slumber slam, getting the bonus damage both from the ult and from the center of watch out Eve. And I'm hoping to see more of that, but the question will be, can they catch anyone out? Because this was JDG punishing Top Esports in that earlier play around red buff. It's now down to Top Esports not to make those mistakes.
I'd still love to see JDG use their mid-pressure as well as the pressure coming out from Yagao. Go in, get some deep vision in TS's bot side jungle, and try to set up more of those picks.
So you can see, especially when it comes to the first tower raid, generally speaking, JDG are kind of the kings of that statistic. You see them on 95%. Top Esports as well, no slouch in 3rd place. But it says a lot about the sheer dominance of map that JDG often have. And when we look towards the early game, we're expecting it to be Top Esports that started off strong in terms of the laning. JDG have done such a great job with this strategy to shut that down.
The thing that stands out to me is the fact that JDG are usually 11th in their lead at 15 to where TS is first, because we're 18 minutes into the game. JDG have a 2K gold lead.
JDG starting off strong, but interestingly as well, because this composition is so dramatically different to what we're used to, it does mean that their late game could be a little bit weaker, not having as much of a front line.
We need to remember, going into what looks like a potential scrap right now, is TS have 5 members around. We see Zoom pushing on the top lane, but with no objective off, both teams is fighting over the Scuttle Crab. TS are going to back off.
JDG would love to grab this mid lane tower. They've already got the tier 1s on both of the side lanes. They want to transition that strength into the mid lane and open this map up.
And I love that we are seeing JDG start to move around and get some deep vision together. We see LvMao and Kanavi in the enemy jungle, Yagao there as well. Going to be able to get this if any member, you know, steps a bit too far forward. You just have so much easy follow-up coming from JDG's comp.
JackeyLove's going to be underneath the tower. Knight happy to face check into the jungle here. And this is the benefit of having the Sett in the mid lane. He can confidently walk up not worrying too much about getting taken down. Bit of damage onto this mid lane tower, but good defense from top esports.
And TS's comp doesn't actually have great wave clear. It's kind of strange when your best wave clear champion is your Sett in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, Jhin offers a little bit. He'll be able to do something to the wave, but only once it gets underneath the tower already. Not able to contest. Top esports, they've had to fully group up because JDG are really pushing the pressure in on this mid lane. LvMao stepping on forwards. But straight up 5v5, maybe top esports has an advantage.
The thing that's nice about TS's comp is it does do quite well with JDG's comp coming into them because you do have that zoning ultimate coming out from 369. Knight as well, a big tank would just love 4 members like you got to run into him, get a really nice haymaker, set him up for a nice ultimate, maybe get Zoom out of the fight. Yuyanjia there to offer peel for JackeyLove as well. To me, it feels like if JDG can land that CC chain that we talked about, they can burst out a key member of TS in an instant, they should win out in the fight. If top esports can position well, 369 has a good ultimate, Knight has a good haymaker, good ultimate, they could weather the storm, they'll come out ahead.
Well, LvMao going to move over to try and clear this Herald. He won't get it before the charge comes in, but they can defend the tower here. So JDG hold on to their tier 1 in the mid lane. But I want to ask you, Lyric, now for JDG, what's the next step with this competition? Because we saw them grouping up in the mid lane. Loken's in a little bit of trouble. He's going to be all right. We saw them grouping up and trying to just brute force this tower, but it's not happened. What's the next step?
So with Dragon coming up right now, we want to see all 5 members of JDG head towards this Dragon. We already see that they were setting up for a potential flank in Yagao walking around the pit if top esports decided to contest and look for a fight through those means. But TS are just going to give this one up. JDG are going to play a bit of a slower game and just pick up their own second Dragon. And
let's be honest, a slower game is what you anticipate from JDG. This is their comfort zone now that they're the ones in control. They can play this at whatever pace they like. 2000 is the gold lead as Loken just about dodges the javelin coming out from karsa. So here we go, Showstopper coming on through on towards Kanavi, but this is not a 1v1 you win, my friend. Knight has to dip out of the play. TP from Zoom. It's going to be, actually, JackeyLove went down, so did Loken elsewhere on the play. karsa gets a double kill. I missed entirely what happened.
I think 369 flash slicing Maelstrom'd over the wall because he was set up over the Raptor pit. Nice job coming out from TS, but still JDG going to be able to answer at least 1 kill and the mid turret as well.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Even though they actually lose the fight in terms of numbers, they still get that tier 1 in the mid lane. So now the map opened wide for JDG. They can push that vision line even deeper.
Yep, and now both teams, of course, going to go for these resets. We start expecting to see teams control vision around topside, but here we go. Here's the play that we were talking about. 369 was wrapping around. Flash slicing Maelstrom does come out. Ashe immediately goes down. LvMao's left by himself. He's done and dusted as well.
This is a support, in quotation marks, where LvMao just walks up and 1v1s JackeyLove because he's playing Pantheon, and that's what Pantheon does. 2 Umbral Glaives, by the way, across the board for JDG, so a lot of vision control, and we have Yagao now on his second item as well. This Qiyana is going to one-shot Squishies.
And whenever you pick Qiyana, obviously the biggest thing is your supreme display of talent, right? If you can hit a nice 2 or 3 man ultimate, that can just decide a game in and of itself.
369's in trouble, doesn't have a flash available. He's stunned for days. Yagao grabs himself a kill, and that's the damage we were talking about.
And the pings are coming out for JDG. They're just going to look to turn on this Baron, and their comp is great at turning if TS look to contest.
It certainly is. This ward has spotted everything, but it's about to time out now. JDG, start this one off. 369 still dead for another 25 seconds. Has the TP when he comes up, though. Yagao may be looking for a play around the blast cone. In goes the arrow. Yuyanjia flashes to safety. Lilting Lullaby available only onto 1 target. Showstopper through the team, though. Look at the damage out of Knight. LvMao trying to block the shots, but he's not going to be able to do it. Loken's the first one to fall. 2 kills going the way of top esports in a 4 versus 5. Top esports turn it on its head, and they want some more as well. On towards Yagao, off with the blast cone.
Oh, and Yuyanjia.
Wait, Yuyanjia, this is how Knight flashes over as well. I don't know what is happening, but top esports will not be stopped. In they go, Kanavi forced to flash, and Zoom desperately trying to take them all on, but he falls by himself. Yagao now chased away by karsa, turns invisible, but swiped down.
It is a 4-for-1 for TS, and they should just be able to turn to this Baron.
That was 4 versus 5. 369 TPs through at the end of the play, and now top esports turn onto the purple work.
But it looks like JDG aren't just going to give this one up. LvMao does have ultimate. Kanavi also has smite if he does want to look for some kind of steal.
Kanavi does not have his flash available. Throws a swirl seed over the wall. going to try and find his way into the pit, but I don't think it's happening right here. LvMao's going to ult for this one, though. 369 slicing Maelstrom only onto Kanavi, but that's enough targets right here. The jungler is out of the play. Baron taken. JDG will find one kill for themselves, but it's traded for LvMao. Loken wants some more, though. Kanavi is incredibly low. He's sticking around for some reason. As Loken against the world right here, stepping forward so aggressively. Yagao, he's got himself some stealth. He's got himself some damage as well, but not enough. Doesn't find the stun. It doesn't find a kill.
Yeah, just, I guess, grasping for straws with that last supreme display of talent, but obviously massive swing for the side of TS. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier, that if JDG can lock down one member of TS and burst them out, you know, it should be great for them. But they go for the Baron, they look for the turn. Sadly, they're only able to hit the Enchanted Crystal Arrow onto Yuyanjia. Again, a bit of a beefier member there on the Tahm Kench. The rest of the members aren't able to follow up, as we will see here. We see Karsa throwing out a nice spear as well. Yuyanjia doesn't go down. Sett's lined up for a perfect ultimate. JackeyLove now opening up the Jhin ultimate as well. And the burst didn't come through. So now the sustained damage by TS is able to win out.
And Knight is more than happy to just stand in the middle of everyone there. LvMao has gone down. LvMao is having an awful game. He is 1-7.
And he was the MVP of the spring finals. But again, not able to put it together on this Pantheon. Also, has been one of the reasons we haven't seen much Pantheon in the LPL. Every time it does look like it flounders like this. TS, just going to be able to keep up this siege.
And Kanavi trying to prove to us that this Lillia can work. His score looks great, but the rest of his team struggling to work with the pick, especially LvMao. Nice little chomp down from Yuyanjia to save the AD carry.
And 369 also controlling this bottom side wave, so TS can have a very easy way to just rotate in the bottom side, make sure 369 can pick up that tower for free, and even keep the siege going in bot lane, where 369 has a massive wave.
Move in towards this bottom lane tier 2, and I don't think realistically there's any way to contest. Zoom's thinking about going in onto the wave. Knight is here, so is 369, and looks like they are going to respect the play here and back off for themselves. LvMao stepping forwards. He's kind of squishy right now. Kanavi gets his mark onto 2. That's going to be a sleep. Down onto Yuyanjia, cleanses it away. Stun only onto the support, though. Yuyanjia's happy to tank this one. In goes Zoom, trying to finish everyone up with a slicing Maelstrom. Turns the play around. Down they go with a double kill for Knight. Now it's onto Zoom. As Kanavi tries to keep them at bay, tries to do the damage. He's on this Lillia, but he just doesn't have it. Karsa with a double, and Top Esports again win the fight.
And 369 with the massive slicing Maelstrom that you talked about. Yuyanjia also a silent MVP because he devoured JackeyLove when the Supreme Display of Talent came out, so he was the only one who got locked down.
Karsa versus Kanavi, 1v1, baby. Karsa's winning it out, but dodging away from Kanavi, flash forward, and the kitty got claws.
And death timers, 40 seconds on Kanavi, 20 on Zoom. Looks like TS only aiming for this inhibitor and are going to have to back off.
Yeah, they're not going to try and end the game just now. Knight happy to finish this one off. And we always talk about Knight, how he is a star player, and even on a tank right now, his scoreline is beautiful.
It's been so nice to see because we saw the early struggles that this composition had. JDG found that early advantage, but they weren't really... They weren't able to find a way to push the tempo forward, right? You stated it so well.
Uh-oh, Karsa's in trouble. LvMao, he may be feeding, but he's got some stuns. Karsa gets out on a blast cone, though, and he's going to be fine, even without his flash.
And he's laughing, which is, you know, an even better part. Karsa very jovial. They are going to be able to take this Drake now, and all JDG can do is answer waves at their base.
And now we have to talk about the late game, because we're heading towards the 30-minute mark here, Lyric, and when we... I mean, let's take another look at this play first.
Yeah, and we see that Yagao's trying to angle for a nice Supreme Display of Talent. Yuyanjia ate JackeyLove, so he's the only one that gets locked up. Zoom goes in the backline with LvMao, but guess what? 369 has an amazing slicing Maelstrom, able to take down both carries from the side of JDG. Kanavi trying to get away while we see JackeyLove taking out the other members with that Jhin ultimate on the opposite side.
The crazy thing is, Knight didn't even really have much MR for this fight, but Kanavi still just can't do anything to him, barely scratch him. And now, that's going to be a second Drake for the side of Top Esports. But let's talk about these compositions then, as we move towards the late stages of the game.
I mean, you said it perfectly earlier on that Top Esports obviously have a pretty nice front line coming out from both Knight and Yuyanjia, to where JDG have absolutely nothing. They're a bunch of squishy champions. They're very burst reliant coming out from Lillia, Qiyana, and Pantheon. If they aren't able to just outright catch JackeyLove or Karsa out, it's going to be tough for them.
They're looking for a pick for themselves, but everything misses from JDG. That is the worst case scenario when trying to force a fight, and it means JDG just lose complete control of their job.
Another aspect of this too is the Tahm Kench pick, which we haven't talked too much about, of how well it does at countering these types of champions that rely on locking you down to burst you out quickly, that Devour coming in so clutch.
So now top esports begin the siege on this top side of the map. They might be able to finish this tower off here as JDG gonna respect it and back away.
With Yagao not having the supreme display of talent with no enchanted crystal arrow on Loken, I don't actually feel like there's an option for JDG to look for an engage right now.
And just look at the gold difference in AD carries here. That says a lot about the way this game has been going, because top esports now, as you can see at the top of your screen, 6,000 gold ahead. LvMao wants to make a play, but Yuyanjia is going to be able to get out with the Abyssal Void.
So right now we're going to see TS go for these resets. Baron is going to be spawning soon, so once again it's going to be about these teams looking for vision on top side. Expect 369 and Zoom to be sitting in the bot lane as both of them have TP up. And TS right now should probably group as a 4 or 5 man unit through mid and walk straight into that enemy topside jungle.
So JackeyLove now clearing through this jungle, and he is getting to the point in the game where JackeyLove can be one of the carries for this team. It hasn't felt that way across the course of this game so far, but Jhin is one of these characters. Ain't so good at busting front lines, but in the later stages against a squishy composition, this is the perfect game.
There are no front lines, so JackeyLove is going to have a ball with this game. Talking about front lines, look at Knight's items and compare them to Yagao. Yagao is not going to be able to do any damage to Knight.
This is going to be a tough one to deal with Knight, because Knight doesn't need to build damage to do damage. Curtain Call comes across as Yuyanjia cleanses away from the Crystalline Arrow. And well, they're going to just back away from this one in the end. Top esports, happy to just deny the play.
I like that TS are taking it a bit slower because even their engage is very conditional, right? Maybe you have Jhin ultimate coming out for the slows. Maybe you have Knight look for a flank, but that's about it. It's much more about controlling this vision and forcing JDG to walk into you.
I love how we've had a killer minute this game so far, and we're describing both of these teams as playing relatively slow, just because of how action-packed the early game was. Top esports, though, never to have a dull party, are going to start this Baron off.
Zoom has TP, so this can very easily turn into a 5v5.
He's going to TP in, but LvMao's been caught once again. 369 finding himself. No, doesn't get the kill. Flashes forward to finish it off. Zoom the only one in the slicing Maelstrom, though, as Knight misses the face breaker. Zoom having to flash out of the play, but JDG, they can't get themselves grouped. They can't get themselves into the play. In goes Yagao. He's got to try and turn this one around, but Knight is onto Loken, and there's nothing Loken can do about it. Just punch time after time as he jumps in and Karsa gets the kill. Now onto Yagao as top esports. They want to finish this game off. They got themselves 4 kills, and now they move towards the base. 369. It's going to look for Yagao. Should be able to finish this one off, but Yagao actually turning this into a 2v1 for now. Survives with his life.
I love that top esports goes, we don't need to go kill Yagao. Let's just end the game. We have 30-second death timers on all of JDG's critical members.
Yagao will not have his ult available, but he will have LvMao respawning. Zooms up in 15 seconds, and with that inhibitor respawning, that might just be enough time. Loken's up in 15 as well. JDG on the cusp of losing game number 1 here, but they might just be able to clear this minion wave. There's only one caster minion left, but they're happy to take the tower. Down goes Yagao. Top esports have just about closed this one out. Zoom is going to jump into the fray, but the towers have fallen. The Nexus is exposed. Loken is here. JDG, you've got to step forward now or never. In they go, but down they fall. Top esports start this final off in style in the rematch from spring. Top esports, they want themselves some bonus kills. They want themselves some KDA, but maybe they've stayed a little too long. In goes Zoom, they're trying to stop the end. But top esports, woo, they pull it off in style.
I love it. They finish that game with swagger, waiting in front of the enemy fountain, picking up a ton of those kills. And we saw the clutch factor that we've talked about so many times with top esports come out to where JDG, they go for the right idea. They think, okay, let's bait the Baron. We have great turning tools coming out from the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, from the Pantheon as well. They look for it. Nice flash from Yuyanjia, and great ultimate by Knight to pretty much deliver TS this game.
And honestly, we saw 2 bans on towards Yuyanjia in the Leona and the Nautilus. I feel like maybe the Tahm Kench is the ban you got to go for there. Kanavi doing a good amount of damage, but everyone was so damn tanky on top esports that it didn't matter.
And it was so nice for them to realize, even in draft, when they saw JDG 4 pick Pantheon, they realized, hey, they're going for a bunch of single target lockdown. Let's draft this Tahm Kench, which pretty much completely counteracts that. And he saved JackeyLove so many times from the Pantheon Suns, from the supreme display of talents coming out. It was just so crucial.
And that was such a top esports way to win the game as well. In game number 1 of the LPL Summer Finals, they are dancing on the edge of fountain. They nearly lose the fight to Zoom off the back of it, but somehow JackeyLove just manages to kite around and get the last auto in. It was dicey, but top esports coming in with confidence.
These are the type of games I expected, honestly. You know, I predicted TS 3-1, not for the fact that I thought it would be a dominant series, but when you have two teams that are so good, it typically does, you know, trend and fall hard in one direction or the other.
Well, we'll see if top esports can keep that going, because I have to say, I'm excited that we're seeing this different style out of JDG, trying to snowball the game. But game number 1, that style has not worked out for them. Maybe for game number 2, they've got to go back to what has worked in the past with Kanavi on a carry in the jungle, but a little bit more of a team fight composition elsewhere.
The thing is, right, we saw how the composition could work. They found the early lead, the tools were there, but they didn't look very comfortable with using them. As you mentioned in game where they just grouped up as 5 and kept trying to force mid instead of, you know, getting the vision down there, using these long-range engage tools to find a pick, and it ultimately, you know, led to them going down.
And, you know, we talk about JDG as the best team fighters in the LPL, but I didn't feel that way in this game. That felt like top esports had their number every single time we saw a 5v5.
I don't even feel like their comp is really meant for, you know, classical team fights. As you pointed out, there was no front line, so it's much more about, you know, getting in there quickly taking someone out, and then winning with the numbers advantage.
Yeah, well, they managed to do that multiple times throughout the game, and they even managed to win a fight with a number disadvantage when we saw JDG playing around the Baron. Top esports engaged with 4 members and still managed to come out on top. That was without the Kennen, which is honestly the biggest engage tool that top esports had.
It also showed how smart they were, because they realized JDG's comp is very cooldown reliant, so once they get through one rotation of spells, pretty much all of JDG's champions don't actually do anything.
Yeah, I feel like when we saw the damage graph as well, we saw a lot of damage coming out from Kanavi, but across these fights, I feel like a lot of that was just onto Knight, who was quite happy to tank it on the front line. That's enough from us, though. We're going to head over to the analyst test to break that game down a little bit more.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the call. In game 1, we got everything we wanted. The blood, the power, and the precision in the end as well. I think top esports to come through and win it, as they said, in a very top esports way.
And it was a beautiful way to start things off, because honestly, I have to give MVP to Karsa at the start of this game, because when I started it off, he was so damn good at controlling JDG from the get-go. Even though we saw those couple of kills go very quickly over to the side of Loken, we saw JDG trying to unlock LvMao as a result, start to move him around, get him into a position where, okay, we can influence top side of the map, let's make these plays happen mid. But Karsa did a beautiful job of reading that every step of the way, shutting down that dive top side with the Pantheon, and then starting to get that snowball rolling.
Because it was such a messy early game, seeing 7 kills go down in 3 minutes with that bottom side skirmish where Loken had 3 kills, and we
2
got
kills for Kanavi. There was a lot there.
We got the ball rolling, and you know, while it was 2 kills over the side of Karsa, on the other side, the bottom side was set up for JDG. We saw, all right, the tools are there. They can be multi-dimensional, moving mid to bot, moving bot to mid as we get towards the mid game. But then we started getting some of these fights. But I do want to highlight JDG first, because I think for JDG, it was very much their opening window. They tried to change their draft as to what we normally see in the season, and they were very proactive in the early game.
Yeah, and I wanted to see them try and get a bit more success down towards that bottom lane. I mean, especially when you already have Loken set up, the ability for you to dive that bot lane is so damn strong with a Pantheon. And I mean, yes, you've got the Tahm Kench there, it does make it a little bit more difficult, but when you are 2 longswords up already coming into lane, you're poking them down, even if you just continue to zone JackeyLove and Yuyanjia away from the tower, that's a big win because of how long it takes that Jhin to come online. But unfortunately, they couldn't actually quite get there, instead opting to move around the map as you talked about, which Karsa shut down.
But there was another reason we saw that Kanavi as well, Karsa was tracking him quite well. You know, whether it was going for the counter jungling or pretty much just reacting to Kanavi's bot, okay, I'm here, adding a bit of pressure. Plus, we also talked about the Tahm Kench while we were off air, saying how important that was with the Jhin, how well Yuyanjia did in that first game, and how he was that counteractive tool that we've seen in the past.
And the big thing here was that it all culminated around that 23-minute Baron fight. Just the ability for them to then just suddenly leap on them. And when we look at top esports, they were very much kind of playing this keep away composition that we're talking about. You look at like the Nidalee super long range, Jhin being able to open up with the deadly flourish, the curtain calls. It makes it very difficult for that composition, as Lyric rightly pointed out, of JDG to get on top of them when that Enchanted Crystal Arrow is down, when a lot of these long range engage tools are down. So I think top esports just did such a good job of reading how this composition works, and then Knight having that massive showstopper at that Baron fight at 23 minutes just sealed the deal.
Being so counteractive towards JDG, waiting for them to come in and then throwing everything at the wall. And it's important to note that that topside engage you talked about where LvMao roams up and tries to get something onto 369, Karsa being there enables 369 to stay in that lane a little bit longer, build up his advantage, and importantly get those 2 items for those slicing maelstroms for that mid gank that we saw as well, Dag. Did you remember behind enemy lines?
Exactly, yeah.
Setting up, and it was a Karsa double kill. Snowballed him further ahead, and his jungle route became that much more aggressive against Kanavi.
And you could see in that play, kind of the jitters coming out a little bit. JDG Zoom instantly teleporting to help out Kanavi in that play. They couldn't get the kill onto Knight. And then 369 was like, well, we know there's 2 people committed over here. Let's go and make that Terra play happen.
Knight took up all the time. Like,
exactly.
Knight was unkillable even in the early stages, and he set up the rest of top esports to succeed. Now, I've been told MVP in my ear. It was JackeyLove that time around.
Okay.
And this is hard because there are a lot of different elements in this game that gave top esports the win, but JackeyLove's precision was definitely one of them.
Yeah, definitely what I wanted to say was like the early game MVP was karsa in setting up that.
Absolutely.
But JackeyLove's damage in teamfights, his ability to move and reposition with the deadly flourishes into these masterful curtain calls, just shut down anything that top esports wants it to do, because once you're able to outrange the Ashe, you're able to outrange the Lillia, there's nothing you can do, and you can see it at this Baron fight that we talked about at 23 minutes. JackeyLove is playing just on the edge of rain, and once he realizes, right, there's nobody who can actually get onto me, manages to get straight through the uprights onto Loken, takes out the main damage dealer. From that point forward, the fight's there.
And there's no proper front line for JDG, so as they said in the cast, JackeyLove has such a good time because the Jhin has 5 comparable targets, all of them being successful, and this is why in the LPL, Jhin is such a high priority for those top-level teams.
And it's also the ability to play so aggressive when you want to as JackeyLove because of Yuyanjia on this Tahm Kench. You've always got that safety button there, so able to continuously get into the thick of things, getting these auto attacks on, which Jhin can sometimes struggle with, but because the attention of JDG was so often drawn to the Tahm Kench, he was more or less left to his own devices, able to cut back from Zoom here, and then he just once again, curtain call, opens up, rips through JDG.
And gives LvMao his 7th or his 8th death at that point. And this was the icing on the cake as we finished things off, because by this point you could see top esports lead was just unbeatable, and no one could deal with 369, especially Knight as well, getting past that front line.
And although JackeyLove was the MVP, as you said, standout performances across the board, my eyes were always drifting towards 369 and Knight and where they were positioned in fights, because at that 23-minute Baron fight, it was Knight getting in onto the back line, slamming Kanavi and Loken together. Exactly, the 2 carries gone instantly, and then there was nothing left. And then when we look towards the rest of the fights that were coming through as well, 369 had that flank position once again. He gets on towards Loken, and even though Loken got off to this great start, 3 kills, bunch of turret plays, a whole heap of gold in the back pocket, he actually couldn't find a position in fights where he's safe from these 2 titans.
Because who gives him space, right? That early snowball needed to continue. We needed to see Kanavi continue forward. I do want to mention a bit of honorable mention to him, though, because in the early game, JackeyLove pretty much got solo killed by Kanavi with that early lead, and I think it's important to note that Lillia, not often do we see that come through. So we still got the aggression of Kanavi, but we didn't get the, oh wow, this moves into mid to late to set up the rest of JDG.
And it felt like it wasn't that JDG weren't trying.
No.
It's not like they weren't trying to get LvMao out, and it's not like they weren't trying to rush these Barons, get them down. And in theory, the game plan works. But it was top esports who so correctly read what they were trying to do, both when it came to that early aggression towards the top side of the map to make that dive, but also their ability to go, hang on a second, lads. we, even though it's a 4 versus 5, can make this fight work.
Yep.
All we have to do is get Knight positioned at the back of the pit. He had his ability to get on towards that back line then, and when JackeyLove is fine, Knight has already, massacred the health bars of this team. Where do you try and go from there?
Now, we've talked up top esports a little bit. I want to mention JDG, because we mentioned that their draft was a little bit different to what we're used to. What do you want to see running into Game 2? What change do you want?
I think just go back to basics. Munch hit it on the head. Just try and go back towards a draft that we actually know and love from this team, where you don't have a Pantheon that's going to fall off a cliff and go 1-8.
Sure.
You've actually got like the Bards, the Threshes, where LvMao can have a consistent impact in this game. It felt like the game plan where they wanted to get off to this early lead and snowball out of control just couldn't quite work out. And as we talked about, JDG at the moment, at least at the end of the regular split, were struggling to transition these early game leads into mid-game advantages. So let's go for a more mid-game orientated team comp, take the slow pace of game, and then strive through these really strong engages that JDG can.
They are the best front-to-back team fighters in the LPL. We want to see that going into game number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, top esports take game 1, lead the charge here in the grand finals of summer. We're going to take a quick break, then return with game 2.